We got some interesting buffs and nerfs to raid to go through today. We obviously know all the class buffs are hitting today, and we actually have a breakdown of the rankings post buffs and nerfs today. We're going to get into that. Ton of news to get into, so without further ado, let's go ahead and do that. Monk, Mistweaver, a little bit of a fixed an issue today with Jade Bond to consume Chai G's enveloping mist stacks, so good for you guys. A Shaman enhancement, an issue with a Maelstrom weapon stacks to become unsuspendable. What is this? Unspendable, sorry, as has been resolved. And then we also have Druid's restoration for PvP, fixed an issue that caused Ancient of Lore to not apply its heal overtime effects or critically strike Blossom Burst while under the effects of Thought Steal. So there you go, some quick hot fixes there. Now, even more interesting is these changes to Mythic, Mugsy, and Gallywix nerfs. We also see some heroic and normal nerfs as well. So going real quick through these, raid should be easier post reset today. Toxic Fumes damage reduced by 17% for Mythic difficulty on Styx, Bunk, and Junker. And then we see a normal and heroic nerf, 25% damage for Incineration. So standing in the fire and parsing shouldn't hurt as much as it was hurting you this week. Sprocket, we got Unstable Explosion damage reduced by 10% on heroic and mythic difficulties. And then Sonic Baboom, initial hit damage reduced by 4% on heroic and mythic difficulties. Nice for the tanks there. One Arm Bandit, Coin Magnet damage reduced by 10% all over. That's great. That's some better raid-wide damage. When it doesn't give a difficulty, I'm assuming this applies to all difficulties. For Mugsy, Elemental Calamity damage reduced by 12%, Uncontrolled Burn damage reduced by 12%, Searing Shrapnel damage reduced by 12%, and Surging Arc damage reduced by 12%. So Mugsy, 12% damage reductions for multiple abilities here. And then Chrome King Gallywix, Total Destruction damage reduced by 10%, Mech Engineers Canisters Healing Absorb reduced by 10%, Canisters Detonation damage reduced by 10%, Venting Heat damage reduced by 10%, Mecha Masterminds Canisters Healing Absorbs reduced by 10% on Mythic difficulties, and then Masterminds Detonation damage reduced by 10% on Mythic difficulties as well. All of these reductions for them, there's more reductions than I thought there would be here. Nomo, thank you for the sub, man, coming in hot and fast with that 2 months in a row. Death Knight of our Scourge. A lot of these were actually changes to normal, heroic, and mythic, so this is good to see. Like I said, raid should be a bit easier post reset. You know what isn't easier? Making these enchants worthwhile. I don't know what it is. Blizzard went around, and these are the corruption enchants, right? The new helm enchants that we're going to get at the beginning at 11.1.5. Blizzard went and tried to buff these things because they were hitting with absolutely no devastation whatsoever. It was just Twilight. No devastation. All we got was basically sparkly skin out of this thing. If you know, you know. And they buffed it, okay? And let's see what the numbers look like post-buff. Really, what it is now is absolutely nothing. So aside from the list of changes, undocumented, the stat value given to Void Ritual was buffed, okay? And then with all of these considerations, Void Ritual is now a 2.5 to 3.5% increase to your damage. Okay, now Void Ritual was the one that was hitting the hardest and taken down from 3 to 4%. Oh, sorry, this is depending on your specialization content you're partaking in, down from 3 to 4%. Look, it's not a big buff. It's still not a big buff. And what Blizzard's really worried about here is multi-target hits. If you look at this stuff, the breakdown of the damage as you pull more and more targets into your pull, the damage increase goes down. So to me, what Blizzard seems to be worried about here is Mythic Plus. Blizzard seems to be worried that these enchants are going to make Mythic Plus too easy for some reason. You see that the nerf continues on. The more targets you pull, the less this thing is going to hit. At 9 targets, it's only giving you really a 3% buff, 3.1% buff, as compared, by the way, percent of damage as compared to a single target if you're saying that's 100%. So you're only getting about 3.1% of the 100%. This is not a buff on damage percentage here. This is a buff on the best damage you could possibly do out of this thing. So a 3.1% of the best it can possibly do on a single target is absolutely nothing. You're not even going to really notice a difference out of this thing. So I don't know what to say. Blizzard's trying and not trying at the same time here. As I said, for Twilight Devastation now, if we're looking at these numbers, it is only a 2 to 2.5% increase to your single target damage, up from that 1, and then for a Mythic Plus, it'd be a 1 to 2% increase. it's just not that great. There's nothing really exciting about it, which is unfortunate because this is really what this patch is about. If we're looking beyond that, being nothing but pure damage buff, there is not a ton to talk about for these. It is now a 1.5% for Echoing Void for single target, and the same 1 to 1.5% increase on Mythic Plus scenarios. If we're looking at Gushing Wound, this is now a 2 to 2.5% increase on single target and a 1 to 2% increase on Mythic Plus scenarios. And then here we see for Infinite Stars, it is now a 2 to 2.5% increase and a 1.5 to 2% on AoE. And then last here, Twilight Appendage, we see a 1.5 to 2.5% increase and a 1.5 to 2% increase on Mythic Plus scenarios. So we're seeing about a 1 to 2.5% increase on your damage. Is that exciting? Is that something that's going to get you out of bed rock hard in the morning? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, looking at the numbers here, nothing too great even before or after the buffs have been put in place. Here are the ranks overall. We still see that really Void Ritual is the S tier one. It's going to be the one that almost everybody's going to want to get. We see a little bit of a breakdown now between the rest of these, whereas before it was just sitting here with Void Ritual at the top and the rest were really D tier at the best. There's a bit of a breakdown now. I guess Gushing Moon is a bit better. B tier, Infinite Stars, and Twilight Devastation here. Sad to see the hero, BFA, now sitting as a B tier buff. But overall, I mean, everyone's going to go get Void Ritual. And then, so what? You got it. You get a 3.5% buff max to your single target damage. And nothing great, as I said before. And certainly a shadow of their former selves that we saw in BFA. That's about the same as a Dragonflight Helm enchant, isn't it? You know, maybe. But the whole thing is, these are supposed to be OP in a way, right? And we're only getting these, by the way, for Season 2. Once Season 2 ends, these are going away. These enchants will not carry forward into the rest of the expansion. So we were kind of hoping that Blizzard would give us a little bit of fun here towards the end of this patch, that these would be a little bit better. But yeah, they're just basically regular enchants now. And they had to buff them to get to them to this point. And what's sad to see is really when it comes to AoE scenarios, they are even less. But you know what's not sad? All the class changes coming into place here. So let's look at these big class changes coming in today. And these changes, these rankings right now, include today's changes. This week's class tuning pass arrives today on NA servers and tomorrow on EU. Our tier list are already updated, and it has quite an effect on the classes. So let's see the tier list here for all the classes, post buffs and nerfs. Here it is, guys. We got a full breakdown. And we see who's moving up and down. Unholy Death Knight, king of DPS right now, still S tier. Demonology Warlock moving up into an S tier here. Elemental Shaman, Frost Mage, Balanced Druid moving up into S tier. Enhancement Shaman moving up, and Fire Mage still sitting up here. Fire Mage got a bit more of a buff than Frost today, so I think Fire is actually going to be a bit more selected when it comes to the high-end meta. For A+ here, we see Retribution Paladin, Destro Warlock moving up. As I said before in a previous video, Warlock's getting a lot of love from these changes here. We also see a Feral Druid doing pretty good, but down a bit still from where they were. They were S tier previously, now down into A+ tier. Devastation Evoker sitting in an A+, you know, that's good because nobody's going to play Augmentation. Frost Death Knight moved up a little bit here, and then Beast Mastery Hunter rounding out our A+ tier. Now for A tier, Marksmanship Hunter moving up, Ass Rogue, Arcane Mage got a big buff here, which is good because they were the least viable, still are, of the mage specs, but now at least playable. Havoc Demon Hunter, Shadow Priest. We see Affliction Warlock moving up again, all the Warlock specs getting big buffs today. Sub-Titty Rogue, Arms Warrior, Windwalker Monk, Outlaw Rogue, rounding out your top A-tier ones here. Shadow Priest was down a bit. I don't know if I mentioned that, but they are down from previously being an A+ tier. And then B+, Survival Hunter, Furry Warrior, and then at the very bottom here, the class that nobody plays anymore, Augmentation Evoker. I mean, my God, what has happened to them? How they've fallen from grace. Finally, we're moving up. Yeah. A lot of these today, a lot of the things that you'll notice here, most of these arrows are green. A lot of classes getting buffs today. Very few nerfs across the board with these changes. But what's good to see is it seems a lot of S-tier classes now. We got 2 more up here. Feels like Blizzard's trying to push more classes up rather than laying the nerf hammer on people and trying to create more variability at the top end of Mythic Plus and rating right now. So there's your post changes. We'll see how all this plays out for the rest of the week. That is all in terms of news.